Well, WA-based software company Pointerra has been awarded a $2.5 million contract by the US Department of Energy for a project to model a range of electric grid resilience investment scenarios by electric utilities. To discuss the detail, Chief Executive and co-founder Ian Olson joining us now. Ian, welcome to ausbiz. Thanks for joining us.
Hey Andrew, thanks for your time. Great to be with you.
Okay, this is obviously a good boost for you. Talk us through the terms of the contract.
Sure, we've been operating in the US since 2018, Andrew, and principally focused on the US energy utility sector. And if anyone's been following US politics, and perhaps not the more recent activities, but US federal politics over the last 5 or so years, the feds have been trying to find a way to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in civil infrastructure. So road, rail, power, water are all looking to be recipients of near on $1 trillion in federal funding as that country looks to sort of patch up and repair its civil infrastructure. So on the one of the big challenges in deploying all that capital, and a lot of it's matched funding. So these companies also have to use their own balance sheets to invest these many billions of dollars. But the biggest challenge is there's not enough people and there's not enough materials. So innovation is the key. And that's our theme. We help these companies understand the condition of their network, risk assess it for them, and help them understand and model the different ways in which they can deploy capital intelligently rather than the old-fashioned way. So our story is the same as it's been since we last spoke to you guys. It's about helping people leverage digital twin data to save time and money. In this case, in investing hundreds of billions of dollars in the poles and wires networks across America. So a real structural tailwind for our business.
Clearly your focus is the North American market. How many contracts do you have at the moment?
So we've got customers in the US, in the US utility sector, number just under 10. And some of those, it doesn't sound like a lot, but some of those are 6- and 7-figure recurring US dollar expenditures, and those customers tend to be upwards of 20 and 50 billion US market cap companies. So they're big opportunities. The prize is recurring ARR expressed in US dollars, and we're looking to target circa 5 million ARR from each of the top 50 US utilities. So do the math on that expressed in Aussie dollars. That's the outcome we're chasing. And it's the sales cycle and the lead times are long, but the investment has been worth it. And this contract award by the Department of Energy really demonstrates what we've been saying to investors for some time, that our solution is going to be critical in helping electricity utilities around the world, not just the US, deploy capital. And the theme in Australia, the theme in Europe, the theme in North America is the same. That capital needs to go into the ground. There's not enough people. There's not enough materials, and so innovation is the key. And that's our cornerstone.
Yeah, so it comes down to recurring revenue for you. That's the key for you. Your cloud subscription business model.
Correct. Yep.
How you have any other contracts in the pipeline? I know you probably can't talk specifics, but how are you working on that at the moment?
Sure. So our digital twin platform targets a bunch of different sectors: mining, oil and gas, where we're engaged with a number of the tier 1 global companies, both in Australia and overseas. We're also targeting road, rail, power, water, and defence and intelligence. So at the moment, our US operation accounts for about 70 to 80% of our revenue, and obviously the prize there is big. And our journey has been to prove up solutions in across those sectors in Australia, and then export those solutions to the US market, which is 10x, 20x times that in Australia. So we've had during the COVID years we had quite a meteoric rise in terms of revenue, and the last year or so has been a bit more problematic. But what we're seeing now with this sort of pump priming, if you will, by the US Fed to provide funding, measuring hundreds of billions of dollars to those US civil infrastructure asset owners. We're seeing a fantastic opportunity for our business, getting us to recurring revenue of 20 and 50 and then $100 million. That's our target, and that's what we've been telling investors for some time.
Ian, I'm intrigued as to how you're deploying AI in your business at the moment, particularly in terms of that modelling.
Yep. Yeah, so we've got one of the through the being in business, for the past 6 or so years with customers across multiple sectors in different countries. We've got quite a few petabytes now of data, and that data is probably the largest multi-client repository of digital twin data, principally 3D data. We built our analytics stack starting in 2018, 2019, with humans building smart analytics to be able to interpret data and build digital twins. And it wouldn't surprise anyone to know that we've been investing in in neural networks and deep learning models to train our analytics to be smarter. So we've got hundreds and hundreds of users on a daily basis logged into our platform, building digital twins, analysing those digital twins to help them better manage their physical world. And through that interaction, we're able to understand the questions that they're asking, help our man-made analytics get smarter by wrapping those deep learning models around what has hitherto been a man-made journey. So very much AI is part of our current journey and very much part of the future for Pointerra, where the full expression of a fully deployed Pointerra solution in an operation would be to a point where our customers are saying, "Hey Pointerra, tell me this. Hey Pointerra, tell me, answer me this question about my network or my iron ore mine or my oil and gas operation." And at the moment, we've got the analytics to provide that outcome. We're working with our really big customers to help get into predictives, because there's one thing to be able to analyse the past, but if you can look at that behaviour and then predict the future, that's when you start to make massive gains for customers in terms of optimising CapEx and OpEx, and that's where we see our solution heading and why it remains so sticky with our core customers.
And just a quick check of your share price. It has collapsed over the past couple of years. What's it going to take to turn that around? Does this all come down to your road to profitability?
I think so. A few years ago, it was grow revenue at all costs, and the market was happy to provide funding to companies that, in terms of cap raise rounds that demonstrated growth in earnings. And it wouldn't surprise any of your listeners, for me to make this sort of statement now, that clearly you have to demonstrate that you know how to make the business profitable regardless of your revenue level. So we've had to undertake a bit of a reset in our approach, in our cost structure, but also get some diversity into our revenue streams. And what we hear loud and clear from the market is show us some cash flow positive results, demonstrate that you can deliver on your promises about growing revenue, and the share price tends to look after itself. My journey in the capital markets, Andrew, sometimes valuations get ahead of fundamentals, and sometimes they lag fundamentals. But as long as we keep doing our job, which is to keep our customers happy and find new customers, the rest will follow.